us to discuss this idea a little more in depth. Anthony Chan, the former Chief Economist at JPMorgan Chase. Anthony, good to see you.
Good to see you, Judge Sean.
I did a lot of reading about this one. I got to admit, I needed to bone up on this one. So for the uninitiated, just simply define universal basic income a little more than what I just did, and why it's different from, say, traditional welfare.
Well, I think it's certainly different because it gives people a certain amount, let's say $1,000 a month, and it doesn't really look at their income, so it gives it to everybody. So that's one of the reasons why there's so much controversy over this program. You could, of course, tweak it and just give it to people that are poor or people that are in need, and therefore you exclude those individuals that don't need the money as much.
But if it is going to do away with jobs, make them obsolete, as we heard Altman's think tank is interested in, about. So proponents of UBI, they include some big names like Elon Musk. Why are people out there getting behind this right now?
Well, Sean, what happens with artificial intelligence, I think it's no secret that a lot of these low-skilled jobs are going to disappear, and people that are working in these high-tech areas, especially artificial intelligence, are going to get criticized because these workers are simply going to be displaced. If you have universal basic income, as Sam Altman is basically advocating, and you give them this money, then it gives the people the wherewithal to retrain themselves because they're receiving this income and therefore go into other high-paying occupations. So in that sense, I think it's very, very good. But economists, of course, talk to you a little bit about some of the things you can expect. There's an income effect, which means that if you give somebody a certain amount of money, in the study, an experiment that Sam Altman really supported was to give people $1,000. But that income effect means that now you feel a little bit richer, so maybe you don't have to work as much. And the study, of course, found that people did reduce their work effort, but it was so slight. It was so slight that it was almost insignificant, but it is reduced a little bit. And then in other forms of universal basic income, you may sort of finance it by raising the payroll tax.
Right.
If you do that, then people will receive less in wages, and so that discourages them from working because of the substitution effect, and they take on a little bit more leisure. In the experiment with Sam Altman, however, the money was given to them, but there was no extra tax. So you just got a little bit of that income effect, but you didn't get that substitution effect basically chiming in.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that OpenAI study and some of the obvious criticisms. You got into it a bit, including the fact that some say it would basically devour about half the U.S. budget.
Well, if you give that universal basic income to everybody, then it certainly does push the number into very, very high territory. In fact, some estimates point out that if you give universal basic income to everybody in the United States, we're talking over $3 trillion a year. But you're certainly not going to do that. You would just give it to people that are either being displaced or people that are in very low incomes, and gives them an opportunity to basically take care of some of their basic needs, childcare, maybe going to school and getting new skills. So you can actually tweak it in that sense to minimize some of those negative side effects. But there'll always be negative side effects. But we should also talk about some of the other positive effects that we didn't mention yet, and that is income inequality. This certainly will, in fact, reduce income inequality, which has been a problem. It's been rising under Democratic administrations and Republican administration. So it's a nonpartisan issue, and I've done research on my Substack newsletter under the People's Economist talking about these trends in income inequality, because people want to sort of blame them on a particular political party, but both parties have certainly experienced income inequality, and universal basic income addresses that issue head on.
Yeah, and the U.S. doesn't have the market quartered on income inequality as well. Now, you earlier talked about that the AI industry would certainly feel blowback by doing away with some non-skilled jobs. But millions of jobs could be on the line as this moves on. And if UBI, say, gives someone $1,000 a month, how's that going to help families who just lost a healthy paycheck?
Well, remember, the 1,000 is just a number that discussed in this experiment. The number could be smaller, it could be larger. But what it is, it's really a bridge to the future. And remember that every time we have technology, people are always afraid that everyone's going to lose their job. But the reality is that new types of jobs get created. Sean, when you and I were growing up, there were a lot of jobs that exist today that did not exist when you and I were growing up. And that's because technology generates new types of jobs. Today we have jobs for data scientists. That was something that wasn't really as prevalent when you and I were growing up. So new jobs get created.